All right, everyone, welcome. Today we're diving into something absolutely essential for your Mandarin journey, your very first conversation, the self-introduction. But here's the thing, we're not just going to be memorizing phrases. Nope, we're going to take a much deeper look. We're going to deconstruct every piece, look at the grammar, the history behind the characters, and even the sounds themselves. Think of it like learning the building blocks. Once you have those, you can build anything. So let's get started. Let me ask you this. How do you make a great first impression? It's something we think about all the time, right? Well, in a new language, that first exchange is everything. It sets the tone for the entire conversation. And in Mandarin, a proper, clear, and respectful introduction is so important. It shows you're not just a tourist with a phrase book. It shows you're a serious student of the language and that you respect the culture. So we're going to build that perfect first impression, piece by piece. Okay, section 1, the greeting. Every single conversation on the planet starts with some kind of greeting. In Mandarin, the one you'll hear everywhere is ni hao, ni hao. Now, the easy translation is just hello, but if we stop there, we're missing out. The two characters that make up this simple phrase are packed with meaning and give us our first real clue into how this language works. So, let's get the sound right first. I want you to listen really closely to the tones. It's ni hao, ni hao. Let's do that again. Ni hao. It's friendly, it's polite, it works in just about any situation. But there's a little trick to pronouncing it correctly that we'll get to in a minute. First, we need to understand what we're actually saying. You know, a huge mistake a lot of beginners make is thinking that Chinese characters are just random pictures you have to memorize. That's just not true. Most characters are actually like little puzzles. They're built from smaller pieces called radicals, and these radicals give you clues about the meaning or the sound. If you can learn to see the pieces, the whole system just clicks into place. And this is where it gets really interesting. Let's look at ni, which means you. You see that little component on the left? That's the radical for person, ren. So right away, the word you is connected to the idea of a person. But check out how. This character is just beautiful. It gives us this incredible window into Chinese culture. It's made of two parts. On the left, you have nu, the character for woman, and on the right, zi, the character for child. So the combination of a woman and a child is used to represent the concept of good. How amazing is that? It suggests that this relationship is the very definition of what is good and harmonious. So when you say ni hao, you're not just saying hello. You are literally saying you good. It's a tiny, beautiful well-wish. Okay, now for that pronunciation pro tip I mentioned. This is a big one, and it will immediately make you sound less like a beginner. The character ni is a third tone, which has this low, dipping and rising sound. And hao is also a third tone. But trying to say two of those dips in a row is awkward and slow. So the language has this cool, natural fix called tone sandhi. The rule is simple. When you have two third tones back to back, the first one magically changes into a second tone, a rising tone. So you don't actually say ni hao, you say ni hao. Hear that? Ni hao. Getting this rule down is absolutely essential for sounding natural. Section 2, identity. All right, you've said hello. What's next? You need to say who you are. We're going to look at the two main ways to do this, saying your name and saying where you're from. And I really want you to pay attention to the word order here. And here is some fantastic news for every English speaker in the room. The basic sentence structure in Mandarin is subject, verb, object, SVO. Guess what? That's exactly the same as English. Take a look at the chart. The subject, 我, meaning I, comes first. Then comes the verb, like 交 or 是. And then the object comes last. This is huge. It means you don't have to rewire your brain to build basic sentences. You can use the grammar you already know as a starting point. So let's look at the first phrase, 我叫, name, 我叫 David. The key verb here is 叫, 叫. Now, you could just translate it as is, but it's more precise than that. It literally means to be called or to shout. So it's a more active idea. It's not just that your name is something, it's that people call you that. So I would say 我叫 David. It's how I'm known. Now for the second phrase, which uses the same structure. 我是 country人. 我是 country人. The verb here is 是, which is the perfect equivalent for the English verb to be. And following our SVO pattern, we have I am, followed by the object. And what is the object? your nationality. And the way you form your nationality is so logical. You just say the name of your country, and then you add the character ren, which means person. So if you're from the United States, you'd say 美国人, literally America person. It's a simple, brilliant formula.
And let's take a closer look at this character, ren. It's one of the best examples of the artistic beauty of the Chinese writing system. It's a pictograph. You can actually see what it's supposed to be. It's a simple, stylized drawing of a person from the side with two legs walking. It's one of the oldest characters, and you can still see its origin. Seeing these pictures and the characters isn't just a fun fact. It makes them so much easier to remember.
Section 3, details. Okay, so we've covered the basics of who you are and where you're from. Now we can start to add some more layers, some more personal details. We'll look at how to state your age and what you're studying, and we'll see those same grammatical rules we just learned coming back again. The standard way to say your age is 我今年 age 岁. Let's break this sentence down. 我, I, is our subject. Now, notice this next part. 今年, which means this year. In Mandarin, words that indicate time usually go right after the subject, but before the main verb. After the time word, you just say your age as a number, and then, this is very important, you must add the character 岁. And that brings us to another super important concept in Mandarin grammar, measure words. You might also hear them called classifiers. In English, we can just say, I am 30. But in Mandarin, if you just say the number, the sentence feels incomplete. You have to add the correct measure word for what you're counting. For years of age, that word is 岁. Think about it like this. In English, we say 30 years of age, or 1 cup of coffee. You can't just say 1 coffee. That word cup is a measure word. Mandarin just uses them for almost everything, and 岁 is the one you need for age. And finally, let's look at the phrase 我学习中文. And what do you know? We're right back to our good old subject-verb-object structure. It's so consistent. We have 我, I, as a subject, then 学习, to study, as the verb, and finally 中文, the Chinese language, as the object. It maps perfectly to the English I study Chinese. This consistency is what makes picking up the basics of Mandarin sentence building so manageable for English speakers. Section 4, from phrases to fluency. All right, let's bring it all home. We've taken apart all the individual pieces of a great self-introduction. Now, our final job is to put them all back together into one smooth, coherent, and fluent monologue. This is where the theory becomes practice. So here it is, your roadmap. This is the complete logical flow. You start with the greeting, then your name, then your origin, and then you can add in other details like your age or what you're studying. You see how each sentence builds on the last one? It creates a full picture of who you are. This is your template. Okay, now I'm going to model the whole thing for you. I want you to listen to the rhythm, the pacing, the flow from one sentence to the next. 你好，我叫 David. 我是美国人。我今年35岁。我学习中文. See how it all connects? That smooth delivery, that's what you're aiming for. So I want to leave you with a final thought to really chew on as you continue your studies. You've now mastered this foundational subject-verb-object structure with the pronoun 我, I. But what you've learned isn't just a script, it's a formula. It's an engine for creating endless new sentences. Think about it. If you can say, I study Chinese, what happens when you just swap out the verb and the object? Could you say, I eat apples? Or I listen to music? The framework you learned today is your key to unlocking a huge range of expressions in Mandarin. Your next mission is to start collecting new verbs and nouns to plug into that incredible machine.